The 607th edition of the Four Corners podcast starts right now.
This is the Four Corners podcast.
Elton ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores. 17 seconds left. And he was fouled. Here we go. Lawson with a runner. No. The rebound. Hansbrough at the gun. Got it.
They were 4 for 24.
Hansbrough on a switch on Paulus. A deep three. And Green rips down the rebound in traffic. 4-on-1.
What a great job. What a terrific job in transition. I mean, you couldn't plan that any better as a coach.
Tipped away by Johnson. It's loose. Page. Johnson.
They're dancing in the aisles. They're high-fiving. They're celebrating. They're going bananas on Franklin Street.
Pass to Britt, 15 seconds to play. Up high to Page, gets a screen from Meeks. Page driving in on the left, high off the glass for two. Louisville with 7 seconds. Jones has it, goes left corner, Black's here for three. Back iron, 1 second to play. Stick up, no! Carolina wins it! The Tar Heels win it! 72-71. 6 seconds to go. Pinson comes front court. Pinson to May for the win. Got it! Luke May! He got it! 0.3 of a second! Luke May gives Carolina the 75-73 lead. Are you kidding me?
Inside 30 overall. Love, top of the key. Oh! Big time delivery.
Here are your hosts, Josh Marlowe and Anthony Pagnotta.
Hello and welcome into another live edition of the Four Corners podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. Just Josh here with you on this Thursday night. We're on the eve of Carolina and Kansas. Arguably the two most storied programs in the sport will do battle tomorrow night in Chapel Hill, which means that Hubert Davis had to meet with the media to talk about the showdown between these two premier programs in the sport. And I'm here to recap that presser that he held earlier this afternoon at the Dean E. Smith Center. So I've got 9 audio sound bites from the head coach that we will run through tonight as we continue our coverage of the Kansas game going into tomorrow, which then we will be back on here live tomorrow night with the recap of the game, whether Carolina wins or whether Carolina loses. Before we get to that, we'll start every edition of the show as we always do with the pod thought of the day. And today the pod thought is a message. You know, I think it was yesterday that there was a tweet that Caleb Wilson sent out that was trying to generate a whiteout for the Smith Center crowd tomorrow. And there was a big rally behind a bunch of Carolina fans on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, which really just was setting the scene and the vibe for what I think is going to be the second best environment that we'll see all year tomorrow night. That, of course, right behind the Duke game. That got complicated because this afternoon the Carolina basketball account sends out a tweet. Don't matter what color you wear, just bring the energy, with a quote of Seth Trimble saying that he expects the fans to be electric, which I guess got a lot of people upset. Like, why would you as a program, why would you not lean in and be in and go all out and create a fantastic environment and give a whiteout? Carolina doesn't do it a whole lot. They had a whiteout in the Kentucky game. You saw it there in the video intro. You had a stripe out against Pittsburgh one year. They've done a blue out at different times as well. But, then this afternoon, or this evening rather, they sent out another tweet. And they had Caleb Wilson address Carolina fans, and that's why he's our pod thought of the day. Here's the message from Caleb.
What's up, Tar Heels? It's Caleb Wilson here. I wanted to white out, and it's happening. Shout out Verizon for keeping the blue shirts in the box, and we're going to need y'all tomorrow. We're going to need more support than ever. It's officially a whiteout. Go Heels.
All right, so you heard it right there from the man himself. If you are going to the game, wear white. Don't be stubborn. Don't try to be cool. Don't try to go against the trend. You've got a white Carolina shirt in your closet. If you don't, get to Franklin Street, get the Chapel Hill Sportswear, Johnny T-shirt, Alumni Hall, no matter where it is, and buy a daggum white T-shirt. If I was going tomorrow as a fan, I would be wearing white. I'm not going tomorrow as a fan. I will be in the building. So will Anthony, as we officially have been credentialed for tomorrow night's game. I was able to secure a season-long credential. So expect a lot more up-close, in-person coverage of Carolina basketball from myself and from Anthony. Want to thank Steve Kirshner, of course, the UNC SID for making that possible. The fine folks as well at the radio station, Sports Radio 92.7 WFNZ, for making that something that could be possible as well. Let's go ahead and get to tonight's edition of the show, which, of course, is the Hubert Davis pre-Kansas press conference. And this is one of the rare pressers where just about every question was focused about the opponent. He'll meet with the media just about, before every weekend ACC game, and then some other games along the way. He'll meet with the media probably before Kentucky, maybe before they go to Fort Myers over Thanksgiving, so on and so forth. But once you get into those pressers, you ask some questions about the opponent, some questions about your team, and then just some other topics maybe around the sport or the conference. But considering this is just game two, a lot of questions dealing with the game against the Jayhawks. And, we talked about how significant this was last night when we previewed the game. The first ever time Kansas has been on campus in Chapel Hill to take on Carolina. So that was the first thing he was asked about, was just the importance of having Kansas on campus for this game as opposed to being played on a neutral floor.
Yeah, I mean, it was significant for us to play at Kansas last year, and for them to come here early in the season, there's a lot of excitement, and there's also a lot of history between both of our programs, and so I think that adds to it, and adds to the excitement, and I know they're fired up, and we're fired up as well.
The biggest winners from these types of matchups are the fans of college basketball and then the sport itself. Look, as someone that loves college football, big NFL fan, I myself am wrapped up in the ongoing football seasons as much as I love college basketball. College basketball is my favorite sport. But when you have games like this on a Friday night, it makes it easier to get eyes on the sport this time of the year as opposed to after the Super Bowl, which is really when the college basketball season, the college basketball interest does begin to uptick as you get closer and closer to March in the NCAA tournament. I always reference these two programs as the two most storied. They don't have the most national championships, but when you look at, the fact that, Dr. James Naismith, who invented the game, coached at Kansas. And then you look at all just the Carolina-Kansas connections. Dean Smith went to Kansas, coached at Carolina. Roy Williams went to Carolina, got his first head coaching job at Kansas. There's just a lot of similarities between these two programs that are consistently winning, consistently competing for conference championships, consistently competing for national championships, Final Four, and the like. So it's a big deal to have this program on campus, to have this program playing in the Smith Center. If they would have played in Greensboro, Charlotte, wherever, it would still be a big deal. But it just means a little bit more when it's on your home court, like last year when it was played in Lawrence and Carolina had a chance to win that game. That would have been a big-time non-con win, and it would have felt bigger because you did it on the road. This game is massive. It's important. I said it's the most important non-con game of the Hubert Davis era, and maybe that would still hold up if it was being played on a neutral floor, but the fact that it is being played in Chapel Hill, that, of course, for me, pushed it over the top. Speaking of that, Anthony was really talking about this a lot last night, stressing, if you get a win, what that means for Carolina when you start to look at the NCAA tournament resume and quad 1 and quad 2. And look, we know how much Carolina struggled last year in quad 1 games. It was why they were literally the last team selected into the NCAA tournament field. And With the ACC not knowing how deep the league is going to be, Hubert Davis was asked, was there an added sense of urgency to pick up this type of win, knowing what it can mean for Carolina come March?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an added sense of urgency for us to continue to improve and get better. One of the things that I've said this to you guys a number of times. I speak to the team and, I give them Proverbs 4:25, ignore all sideshow distractions, just keep your eyes straight ahead. And so, obviously winning big games is important, but the most important thing is to focus on what is real. And that for us is our preparation, our practice, and for us to play at the highest level that we can play tomorrow night. And at the end of the day, the results will take care of itself.
So very much a coach speak answer there from Hugh, but he did say winning big games is important. You go to Carolina to play in big games. You go to Carolina to win big games. And tomorrow night's a big game, hence why there's a whiteout. Hence why there's going to be a different energy in the Smith Center on November 7th than there normally is. So yes, he'll downplay it because he has to. There's an added sense of urgency, I think, from Carolina in terms of the players. I think you'll see a much more animated Hubert Davis probably on the sidelines when he gets into the lines of competition against the Hall of Famer Bill Self, and there will be an added sense of urgency from Carolina fans. I think there will be a great environment created. There will be a great energy in the arena. But if this thing doesn't go well, Carolina won't be afraid to let it be known and voice their frustrations as well. And again, that typically doesn't happen on November 7th. But when you bring a program like Kansas into town, certainly everything gets heightened a little bit this early on into the year. Let's now talk a little bit more specifically about the Jayhawks. We talked extensively last night about Darren Peterson, the star-studded freshman. He's going to be in conversations to potentially be the number one overall pick in next year's NBA draft. And Hubert Davis spoke about what makes him such a great player and a tough guard for his team tomorrow night.
He is obviously he's gifted, but just his ability to be impactful and dominant on both ends of the floor. I mean, obviously, he can score. He's a 4-level scorer, can shoot from 3, mid-range, get to the bucket, get fouled, get to the free throw line. I've also been impressed just from a defensive standpoint. His ability to get steals and deflections, rebound the basketball, and so he's more than just a scorer. He's a complete basketball player, and obviously he's playing at an extremely high level with tremendous confidence.
Look, he was efficient the other night, scored us 21 points on 63% shooting. I'm pretty excited to see him in person. Devanza is, arguably the front runner and the odds-on favorite to be the number one pick in next year's NBA draft. I do think Darren Peterson will make it a much more interesting conversation than it was last year, where everybody and their mother knew Cooper Flagg of Duke was going to be the number one overall pick. And so he's a scorer, he's explosive, he's dynamic, but he will compete defensively. And I think that's what, probably drew the attention of Bill Self to recruit him. He likes his guys that compete on both ends of the floor. And so Carolina, they're going to have their hands full with him. As we talked about in the preview, this to me is a Seth Trimble game. What Seth Trimble does for you offensively, for me, is icing on the cake. His number one responsibility tomorrow is to make life long and hard for Darren Peterson. I want to make him work for every bucket that he gets. I want to make him grind out possessions. I want to pick him up full court. I want to full court press him. I want to trap him. I want to run him into as many screens as possible, test how physical he wants to play, so on and so forth. The problem is so far from what we've seen from this kid, he's going to be up to the task. And so Carolina will have their hands full tomorrow night with Darren Peterson. All right, so the next thing that we'll kind of follow up with was a tremendous question by Brendan Marks. And what else would you expect from a guy like Brendan, who is as good as there is as anyone covering the sport of college basketball? What's new to the sport are these preseason high-level exhibitions. Carolina played in one when they played BYU. So did Kansas when they played against Louisville in the preseason leading up to the start of the regular season. And Hubert was asked if, having seen that film and having seen Carolina compete against, a perennial top 10, top 15 program like the Louisville Cardinals if it made the scouting job easier going into this matchup?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, obviously they played Louisville on the road, and you're able to see some tendencies or habits that they're, early in the season trying to identify. And, the same for us when we played BYU. But I mean, irregardless of the opponent, Kansas is really good. They're extremely well coached. They're very athletic, versatile, very good on the defensive end. They do a really nice job of getting steals and deflections. So we're going to have to take care of the basketball, and offensively, their speed and their athleticism is real. And so irregardless of who you play, that jumps off the page when you watch them.
Yeah. And so, when you watched Carolina play against BYU, you saw Carolina treat that like a regular season game that mattered. You look at the rotation and some of this, what they did in terms of their half court offense. They were running sets. They were running plays. Carolina was playing to literally win the game, even though it didn't count. Not to say that Carolina knew that against Winston-Salem State. They didn't have to. Carolina is just pure God-given ability. Would allow them to go out there and win the game the way that they did. Same thing for Kansas with the exhibition on the road at Louisville. They're going to treat that like a game that counts, like a game that matters. So a lot of what they did in the half court is what they're going to try to replicate tomorrow night. And so it does give these coaches, I think, a better feel for these matchups. And again, this is a benefit to the sport. You're having these high-level preseason exhibitions. These coaches get to learn a little bit more about their teams before the season tips off. And I think it almost encourages them to play these types of games even earlier in the season, because they can play a tough game that doesn't count, but give them a greater sense of feel of where their team is going into the start of the regular season. As opposed to just playing a bunch of cupcakes that, doesn't really allow you to learn a lot about who you are until maybe you get into conference play. Let's get a little bit more technical about what is going to be necessary for Carolina to win the game. We talked about it last night again in the preview. I wrote the battle of the bigs that starts with winning the offense and the defensive glass. And Hubert Davis spoke about the importance rebounding will play in this game tomorrow night.
One of the things that we always talk about is making contact first. And another thing that I always tell the guys is, every player and every team, there's going to be a point where you reach a level, whether it's high school, college, or the NBA, if you're good enough, that you're going to reach a level and you're going to play a team that is just as gifted as you are. And so when you are matched up against that player or a team that is just as gifted as you are, the difference makers are going to be the little things. And so in regards to boxing out, making contact first, I mean, that guy can jump just as high as you. So you're not going to out jump him. You're going to have to be physical when the ball goes up in the air. That's something that we've talked about and that we have to improve on. You mentioned against BYU, that was something that was concerning and glaring, that when the ball went up in the air, even though we out rebounded them, our ability to get those hard, tough physical rebounds. And so that's something that we're just going to have to do tomorrow night, because as I said before, rebounding is the number one determining factor of the outcome of a game. And so that has to be on point for us tomorrow night.
Yeah, Hubert Davis isn't lying. It's the foundation of this program is rebounding in the secondary break. Carolina's got to be physical at the point of attack tomorrow night. It's going to be a war. I think the more physical team wins the game. And that's why you really got to love Carolina's size, their length, and their physicality, because it's not just going to be on the shoulders of Henry Vassar. It's going to be Caleb Wilson. It's going to be Jaron Stevenson. You've got bigger guards in the backcourt. You've got big wings coming off the bench as well. You've got Zayden High. You've got James Brown. You've got all these different guys that you didn't have a year ago, and that's why you got overwhelmed on the glass at different points in the year. And he's right. They did out-rebound BYU, but Carolina gave up too many offensive rebounds in that game. And you look at the other night, they probably to a school that was 346th in KenPom, probably gave up too many offensive rebounds to a school like Central Arkansas. So it's about beating your man to your spot, fighting for that position, and then just being tough enough to go get the basketball. And the guy that's going to be focused on the most is going to be Henry Vassar. A lot of guys or a lot of Carolina fans were very critical of Vassar. after a 14-point, 10-rebound double-double, kind of questioning if he's physical enough to play down low at Carolina. Well, we're going to learn a lot about him tomorrow night and if he can handle the physical nature of playing down low for this program. And Hubert Davis talked about the role he'll have in tomorrow night's matchup.
Yeah, Henry, obviously from a defensive standpoint, rebounding the basketball, but he also, with his length, he can block and he can alter shots. And so obviously they have a, lob threat, rim threat. And so that's something that we've talked about and we want to, try to eliminate as much as possible. But, on the offensive end, Henry does a really good job of running the floor. He's a post presence for us, and that's real. We've talked at great length of how we want to dominate points in the paint. We want to throw the ball inside. And so just using Henry around the basket, but also his ability to pass on the perimeter and shoot from three. Hasn't shot a lot of threes, but just trying to find more opportunities for Henry pick and pop situations because that's a real gift of his, and that's something that we really need to utilize.
If he's going to average a double-double and shoot 67% from the field, you won't hear many complaints on my end. But I do think we'll learn a lot about Henry Vassar tomorrow night and the kind of big man he's going to be. I think he'll be, amped up for the challenge. Floyd Badunga is one of the best bigs in college basketball. He's a different big than, what you saw last year against Hunter Dickinson. And he, as I mentioned last night, do I want my guys aware of what's being said about him? No, but if he's maybe heard some of the murmurs, maybe that does motivate him. I don't have as many questions about his physicality as others, but, I think tomorrow night will be a way to sway that narrative one way or another. A few more sound bites from Hubert Davis, and then we will get out of this edition of the podcast. Now we'll transition more to some Carolina-centric comments from the head coach of Carolina basketball. And we all know that Monday was a whirlwind for Luka Bogovac. We went into the season opener believing he was not going to be able to play. He got cleared within 40 minutes from the tip, came off the bench, played 20 minutes, scored 10 points, hit a three, handed out 5 assists. And Hubert Davis said today that what he did on Monday night, it showed a maturity level that Luka possesses and kind of reminded him of a moment that Hubert endured back during his NBA career.
It shows his maturity in terms of being able to stay locked in and stay ready when your number is called. It kind of reminds me when I got traded from Dallas Mavericks to the Washington Wizards, and I had to be there within 48 hours. And I remember landing in Washington, D.C. and having my suitcase roll across the court during warm-ups. And I met my teammates and met Coach Leonard Hamilton for the first time. And he asked me, can I dribble the basketball? Because we have a number of shooting guards. And I said, yes. And he says, okay, you're going to play point. And I played point guard and had to guard Vince Carter that night. And so, didn't go very well, but, and so it just kind of reminds me of, I guess that professional mindset of staying locked in and staying ready. And when your number is called, you're called to perform.
And that's why there was such a sense of urgency getting him cleared. He's a pro that's now just playing basketball at the college level while he chases his NBA dream. And his ability to do that the other night was impressive. I don't know how many guys could have found out, less than 40 minutes before tip. Now you can play, process that, and then go out there. And did he shoot the ball great? No, but I could only imagine the nerves, the emotions he was feeling, because it was just, a whirlwind leading up to the game because there was so much reporting going on about, and we were told it was a minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day case, but we were told it could last into January, just depending on how this whole thing played out. You knew he was probably being told the same thing. And then, while he's in the arena wearing a jumpsuit, he finds out, hey, go put on your uniform. You're going to play basketball. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of how he follows up his debut. Wonder if Hubert Davis does move him into the starting lineup. Was kind of surprised that question was not asked. Had I been in the presser, that would have probably been the question that I would have asked him. But he's going to play a significant role. He's a big part of what this team already is. and what this team will be. And you saw a glimpse of that on Monday night. 2 more sound bites before we do get out of this edition of the show. We'll go back to the season opening win over Central Arkansas, where Carolina registered 23 assists on their 33 made baskets. Their season high in assists last year was 24. So they almost already eclipsed that total just one game into the season. And Hubert said he was encouraged by the ball movement he saw from his team in the opener.
Yeah, that's one of the many things that I was really encouraged about against Central Arkansas was just our ability to share the basketball. I felt, consistently we were passing up good shots to get great shots. I felt like in some instances we were even overpassing. I mentioned before, and we all laughed about the double lob, and that's something that I had never seen before, but just instinctively, and this is something that we've talked about, is that just making the extra pass, move the ball, share the ball, and it was nice to see everybody do that this past Monday.
The unselfish nature of this team could be its strength. I think, Caleb Wilson has superstar potential. Luka Bogovac, I think, could emerge as a star, maybe Seth Trimble. But what you love about this group is the depth and the continuity and the cohesiveness they already seem to have. And yeah, that ball the other night, man, it moved. It was inside out. It was one side of the floor from the other. They made the defense chase. They made the defense rotate. And Carolina went from good shots to great shots. And that's why I wasn't discouraged by the 10 of 29 shooting that they shot from behind the three-point line. I looked at the shot creation, the shot generation. They generated better shots on a consistent basis in the half court on Monday night than they did at times last year. No matter the level of competition, it didn't matter if Carolina was playing Duke or if they were playing Elon. Carolina struggled at times to generate quality looks in the half court. Ball movement struggled because the ball just stuck in R.J. Davis's hands. But that's not the case with this group. It's going to go inside out. It's going to go from one side of the floor from the other. They're going to get the defense unbalanced. It's going to create driving lanes. It's going to create, open perimeter shots. And that's why I think, this offense, it's still a work in progress, especially we're trying to work Luka back into the fold now that he's cleared to play. But this offense has firepower like we haven't seen in quite some time, and you're going to see some big offensive numbers throughout the season for the Heels. The last piece of sound we'll play, we'll focus back on that freshman. We mentioned him at the top of the show, where Caleb Wilson did announce that it is a whiteout tomorrow in the Smith Center. So once again, do want to reiterate, if you're going to the game as a fan, wear white. If you don't have a white T-shirt, get to Franklin Street and buy one. And Hubert Davis was asked about, Caleb Wilson kind of embracing the pressure and the nature of playing at a place like Carolina. And Hubert simply said he wants the spotlight.
He wants the spotlight. He's somebody that runs towards it. And yesterday at practice, he had a different, not a different over the last week, just a different look. So after practice, I pulled him aside and I said, Caleb, is everything okay? And he goes, Coach, I'm just really locked in. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But one of the things that really makes me feel comfortable as a coach is when you smile. So I said, you can be locked in, but you have to smile. Just look at me, just give me that smile, and then you can go back to being locked in. But he's somebody that, the attention to detail. I've mentioned before that he's always asking questions. As talented as he is, he's not somebody that thinks he knows everything. He's always willing to learn, but he's one that runs towards the light, and he's really excited about playing on Friday.
I think that's what you love about this kid, is that he has embraced everything that Carolina provides, what Carolina offers. The pressure of playing at a premier program, that's definitely real. That's definitely legit. And so that you like that. He's not going to run away from that. And I think, as much as any 5-star freshman that Carolina has recruited under Hubert Davis, Roy Williams, anyone else, it's been 2 feet in. It's all about the university. It's all about the program. And his primary focus is that, yes, he wants to put up big numbers. Yes, he wants to get to the NBA, but I think he wants to be a part of restoring this program back to greatness. And he wants to be the guy that gets mentioned about when we're looking back 10, 15, 20 years from now, reflecting on all what was accomplished under Hubert. Well, Caleb Wilson was really that turning point player. He was the guy that really set the tone. He's a great culture fit, so on and so forth. And so he hasn't been fazed by anything so far. I think, he'll be one that will marvel at what Carolina basketball will look like, what that arena will look like, that energy will be like tomorrow night. And I think he likes being a guy that sparked all of this, because seeing his potential in the 2 exhibitions and seeing what he did against Central Arkansas in the opener does make you have a different feeling about this team's potential, because even we may be underrated just how doggone good this kid's going to be in his lone season in Chapel Hill. And hopefully tomorrow night is the first of many spotlight games this program will play and compete in across the 2025-2026 basketball season. With that, folks, it's going to wrap up this edition of the show. In the meantime, we will direct you guys to the website. That's HeelToughBlog.com, where full coverage of the Kansas game will be provided for you guys. Preview will always go up the day of the game. I'll get you ready for the matchup with the Jayhawks. The recap will come probably sometime late that night, maybe earlier on Saturday morning, again with us being, credentialed members of the media. What that offers us is the ability to be at Hubert Davis's postgame presser, be in the rooms with the players, and maybe get some great footage, some great interaction with those guys, which we'll be looking to bring for you on the Heel Tough Blog social media channels. But that recap will be posted for you guys no later than Saturday morning, as I will continue to take you through the basketball season. Anthony has you covered all things Carolina football. Heels back in action this weekend at home in Keenan against Stanford for homecoming. Preview and recap will be found on the website as well. So it's the busiest time of the year for the website, with football and basketball both in full season mode. So make sure you get to that website every single day for the latest and best coverage of those 2 programs. As for the podcast, you guys know where to find us. Every major podcasting platform. Simply search the Four Corners Podcast and we will pop up. There, we encourage you guys to rate, review, and subscribe. That way you don't miss any editions of the show throughout the remainder of the basketball season. If you're a video consumer of the podcast, the best way to keep up with us, like and follow us on our Facebook page at Heel Tough Blog. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Heel Tough Blog, or follow me on Twitter at HTB_Josh. If you like or follow any of those pages, when we go live, you will get notified, and you can jump right in and hear any of our coverage of Carolina basketball. But with that, folks, it is going to wrap up this edition of the show. One final reminder: wear white if you're going to the Smith Center. Find your white jersey, white polo, white T-shirt, no matter what it is. Wear white, be loud, create a great environment tomorrow for Carolina as they take on Kansas. So with that, I want to thank all of you guys for both watching and listening. And as always, go Tar Heels.